General Motors has...
The country's largest automaker plans to have 40% of its vehicles electric.
The EV market has been crashing for some time now. Despite the pressure from the US government, people are still not ready to go completely electric. Overall, the EV market has been taken by hybrid vehicles for a number of reasons, starting from overprice of EVs to unreliability associated with cold weather. However, General Motors is not yet ready to change its EV strategy. The backlash from the EV industry seems to have not affected GM's plans. Come along as we unpack the GM CEO's recent moves and catch a sneak peek at this difficulty. Let's find out if GM can make it out of this battle. It is going to be a wild ride. EVs were thought to be the future of the automobile world. However, recent events in the EV market suggest a change in the landscape of the car market. Because of both the infrastructure and financial challenges, hybrids and plug-in hybrids are returning to the game, despite the government favoring the goal of making a huge chunk of electric vehicle purchases by 2032. Americans' never-ending love for gas-powered cars is intensifying day by day because of the overpriced electric vehicles. When companies are shifting the gear on EVs, GM has something else in their mind. Famous brands like Ford are rethinking their decision to go all in on electric vehicles. Ford CEO Jim Farley has stated that the company has decided to shut down its entire EV production. As part of this, the company has decided to cut production at its Michigan Road Electric Vehicle Center to one shift starting April 1, 2024. In October, the automaker said it would temporarily cut one of 3 shifts at the Michigan plant that builds the electric F-150 Lightning pickup truck. Companies like Toyota are shifting their strategy from EVs. They are now focusing on hybrids and alternative fuels instead. In Japan, the company's research and development teams have conducted experiments to develop alternate engines. We have seen companies experiment with ammonia engines that offer a pretty good range of up to 1,000 miles, but have some production issues that are being worked out. Ford 20K cars running on hydrogen engines are another promising alternative to EVs. But the GM is not yet ready to give up. General Motors is to go all in on EVs, even after losing over $1 billion, instead of listening to customers and their needs. Now, General Motors is planning to spend $19 billion over roughly the next decade to source critical materials for use in electric vehicle batteries from the South Korean supplier LG Chem. The long-term supplier contract between LG Chem and GM includes the supply of 500,000 tons of cathode materials, including nickel, cobalt, manganese, and aluminium from 2026 through 2035. This supply would be enough to power 5 million units of EVs with a range of more than 300 miles, said the suppliers. GM is also setting up shop in what they're calling America's biggest cathode factory in Tennessee to increase the production of accessories and batteries for EVs. Tennessee was chosen because of its proximity to important customers, ease of transporting raw materials, and cooperation from state and local governments. The new plant, which will be constructed in Clarksville, will be the largest of such in the US and around the world. It will be expanded on 420 acres and is expected to produce around 120,000 tons of cathode material per year by 2027. The contract builds on GM's commitment to create a strong, sustainable battery EV supply chain to back the company's fast-growing EV production needs in the market, said Jeff Morrison, GM Vice President of Global Purchasing and Supply Chain. But is that what the customers really want? The world now thinks that the EVs are overpromising and under-delivering. According to recent consumer reports, EVs are having a rough time in the industry. The data states that electric cars have nearly 80 more problems than gas-powered cars. It seems that the common people are fed up with electric vehicles. EVs were thought to be game changers in this tech world, but the cons associated with them cannot be ignored. Starting from the environmental impact, EVs are facing criticism all over the world. EVs have always been seen as a remedy for the environmental problems the world is facing, but they are now becoming the cause of them. Despite being claimed as green, EVs are adding to the environmental problems. Even though they rely on electricity, They are often generated from fossil fuels and use rare earth metals mined in environmentally harmful ways. EVs became even more famous after the Biden government, but the infrastructure development is still lagging. For example, finding a charging station is still an arduous task for customers. Then there's the range problem. There was news saying that electric vehicles are running out of gas in the middle of the road between rides. Batteries that just can't handle the cold are yet another nightmare for customers. Charging their EVs in cold weather has become challenging. EVs are becoming greatly expensive to insure, with premiums potentially reaching $6,000 annually, which is extremely high compared to other vehicles. Maintenance costs tend to be as high as $50,000, which makes people think that it is better to buy a gas car than just repair their EVs. The last one on the list is the recent incidence of thermal runaway. Thermal runaway is causing EVs to catch fire while charging, and over 100 deaths have already occurred in the US. Apart from that, the pressure from the US government has a lot to do in the EV market. The US government is so addicted to EVs that it has even announced that companies have to pay hefty fines if they don't sell enough. The Biden government gave the public a $7,500 tax credit on EVs. In addition, the government told car makers to increase EV prices, which shot up by nearly $25,000 compared to a gas car. Given all these challenges, do you think people will be interested in experimenting with GM's EVs? GM's EV division, in reality, is expecting a huge collapse, as nobody wants to buy GM's EVs anymore. Recent statistics suggest the same. The company could only sell around 15,652 electric cars in the second quarter of 2023, down from 20,670 in the first quarter. It is said to be a drop of 24%. When we compare the sales of other EV giants with GM, there is a huge difference. When compared with Tesla sold a whopping 466,000 EVs in the same period. How is GM doing in the market? GM's total EV sales for 2023 were 754,183, which is only about 2.9% of their total sales volume. Their gas car sales are what are keeping them alive now. Even though they had a bad financial year, GM managed to make over $10 billion in profits due to their gas-powered pickups in the last quarter of 2023. GM sales shot up by 41% compared to the year before, defeating its rivals like Hyundai, Ford, etc. The company had to recall a whopping 323,232,000 vehicles because of a tailgate issue that made it difficult for the customers. It seems that recalling is now a trend in the EV market. Apart from GM, there are other brands like Ford, Chevrolet, etc. Ford was forced to recall around 422,000 SUVs, along with BMW recalling nearly 100,000 Minis over some electronic control module issues. In short, GM is losing money on every electric vehicle it sells, especially EVs. While the ramp has been a little bit bumpy, we have worked through that, says Paul Jacobson, GM's chief financial officer. This statement definitely gives a ray of hope. When all other giants in the EV market are working towards alternative sources, it's time for GM to join the team. GM should follow the Japanese strategy. Japanese companies are emphasizing more options rather than fully committing to unreliable EVs. They have been trying to develop engines that run on ammonia, hydrogen, or even solar power, which can produce cars with a remarkable range compared to EVs. It is time for GM to prioritize the needs of its consumers rather than pleasing the government on its EV agenda. If they do so, it will be a losing game for the GM. The only way out is to focus on lowering the cost to attract the common man. Let them choose you. Don't you think GMs should start thinking differently for their survival in this battle? Keep the discussion going in the comments section. Don't forget to like the video. Please subscribe to us for more automotive news that sprouts in the industry.